Hey, what's up guys? We have another video. This time I am playing at a new place in case you guys wanted to see me playing at a different place other than my normal regular place. I do play poker other places, but anyways, it's been crazy. My kid actually graduates tomorrow and she's doing the run through today. So if I have pictures up by the time I'm editing this and all that stuff, I'll put the pictures up for you guys. But that's pretty cool, man. I don't know if you got a kid or if you're about to graduate, let me know down in the comments. I hope you have fun, live your best life, do what you want. Okay, you only got one life to live, live it right. You don't care about any of that. Let's get into those poker hands.
All right, yeah, my kid's graduating. Pretty cool, man. I don't know. It's cool to see, someone you brought up, did everything you can, taught all your life lessons to start their own life and become a young adult. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, to this poker hand, look down at Ace-Jack offsuit. I raise it up to $10. We get a few callers here, and we are going three ways to the flop. So far, it's pretty standard. Now, flop comes out 8 deuce jack. So we flop top pair with top kicker, ace of clubs. I check because I've talked about this before. Sometimes I check in this spot, protect my checking range. The cutoff bet $15. I make the call. We're going heads up to a turn, which is a 10 of spades. I check again. He bets $25. Look, guys, I'm not going to be folding here, but the board's a little dicey. I don't want to raise either. So I make the call. River's a queen of spades, even more dicey. Goes check, check. He actually flips over that he has a straight. I was shocked he didn't bet his straight on the river. He says he's worried about spades. But anyways, lose the first $110 pot. On to the next hand. Alright guys, so for the next hand, we are looking at a double board bomb pot. This game does have bomb pots every hour. It's also started off as a 1-2 hold'em game, but quickly switched to round of each. So you will be seeing a little more Omaha hands in this than normal. With that being said, look down at ace, queen, jack 8 with 3 spades. The top board is 5, 7, 8 with 2 spades. Bottom board is 10, king, 7 with 2 diamonds. So flop the nut flush draw up top and flop a complete wrap on the bottom. Player bets $15. He gets a whole bunch of calls. And guys, just so you know, on the bottom, any card from a 9 to an ace gives us the straight. Also, we have a pair up top with the 8s, so we can go runner boats as well as a nut flush draw. So I have a very strong hand, even if I don't have a single pair. I guess I have a pair of 8s, but yeah. This is a very, very strong hand. Having 3 spades is a little inconvenient. I only want 2, but it is what it is. Action gets around to the cutoff player, and he raises it up to $100. So far, I've played this hand very passive. I only have about $195 behind, so, this is probably all going in. I have way too much on each board to not put all the money in. Small blind does make the call for $100. It gets around to the other players that had called the original 15. They actually end up folding, and when action gets to me with $195 behind, $15 in there, and how much money has already been bet and called, I don't see any other option other than to go all in, because once again, half the deck on each board gives me the nuts. So that's exactly what I do. I go all in for $195. The player to my left decides that, hey, if we're going to gamble, let's gamble. So the hijack announces he is going to be going all in over the top of me, which is music to my ears because with my hands, I want as many people in as possible. It's not like I have aces and I'm afraid of them getting cracked. The cutoff does actually make the call. This is one of those few hands in Omaha where you want a lot of callers. Either I'm hitting or I'm not. Now, don't get me wrong, if like a board pairs and they get a boat and you could have gotten someone to fold a set, like if someone has a set of 5s up top, they may fold, right? Like that's one of the hands you could possibly get to fold because the straight's already out there. And, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Just depends on how long they've been playing Omaha, how much gamble they have in them, and if that's the only board that they actually have. Because on bomb pots, if you cannot scoop, you probably shouldn't be in the board. If you're only playing for half the pot, you probably, unless you have the absolute nuts already, shouldn't be playing the bomb pot. You should probably fold and wait for another hand. With all that being said, the other player who originally called the 100 ends up folding because I believe they had like over $400 or $500 in there behind them. I was definitely short stack at the table by now. This game is great action. And the guys are just great. I have a blast playing it, but I have not run good at it in the past. So hopefully that is about to change right here and right now. Please, dealer, one time, let me hit both of these boards. Top comes 8 of clubs, 5 of hearts on bottom, so I have trips up top, nothing changed on bottom. Then the 3 of hearts up top and the jack of diamonds on bottom. So I do have Broadway on bottom. Unfortunately, someone does have the nut flush, so we end up getting scooped and bricking pretty much everything. On to the next hand. All right, guys, after that disastrous run out, we look down and see pocket jacks from the small blind. What could possibly go wrong now, right? Anyways, middle position raise up to $5. We get MP +1, hijack, and the button to call. That is when I decide to raise it up to $25. Middle position player says, that ain't cool, sir. I don't care about your $25. I'm going to make that call. Guys, this is a game I've been playing very shortly, but I run insanely bad at it. I don't normally talk about run bad and things like that. I think poker evens itself out. But yeah, I don't run good this game. Anyways, flop comes out, jack 9-3. Ha ha ha, trolled you all. I got top set. What could possibly go wrong? Middle position player bets 25. I call. I'm slow playing here. Turn comes the queen of hearts. I check again. He bets 25. Now it's time to spring the trap. Raise it up to $75. And I charge him if he's going to chase a flush, straights, things like that. If he has 2 pair, it's just a good raise. Could have been a little more maybe. Anyways, he calls. River comes the 10 of diamonds. Yep. 4-liner to a straight. I check it, ready to just throw my hands to the dealer when he bets. Luckily, he checks behind, though. He announces his hand. I let him know that his hand is no good. I have a set of jacks. And somehow, some way, it wins this $265 pot. Now, I hope y'all are watching this and paying attention because, yeah, I don't win too many hands this session. Yep. But that's how all the runouts pretty much go. So let's move on to the next hand and see what happens next. All right, guys. So I put $5 on the button. Let's see if we can win 2 hands in a row on the vlog. I see 10-7 of spades. Not a bad hand for a straddle hand. Big blind does make the call. Action gets around to the hijack player. He decides he is going to call as well. So he puts in $5 in chips. And guys, I really want to get a little something here. Get a little win going. Cutoff decides to raise it up to 15. So I make the call. Big blind makes the call, and hijack, of course, is not folding for 10 more. He decides to make the call as well, and we're going 4 ways to this flop. By the way, the hijack player is an action player, so he could have anything right here. Flop comes out ace 10-3. Flop middle pair. Not too bad on a draw heavy board. Action checks to the hijack player, and like I said, he is an action player, so he's going to bet $30. Cutoff makes the call. I think about it for a second, and I think I could be ahead of hijack. I think cutoff could have a flush draw, but he could have an ace. So I think here it's fine to make the call. It's a half pot bet, and it just kind of is what it is. I'm going to make a call, see if we can turn a flush draw, 2 pair, something like that, see what happens. Turn comes in, it's 8 of hearts. Doesn't change anything at all. But on the turn, action ends up checking through. So I feel pretty good about my hand right now. I didn't want to bet, but I still feel good. And if no diamond comes off, I'm feeling okay. River comes the 5 of clubs, once again, changing absolutely nothing on the surface level for this hand. So when the hijack player decides he is going to bet $30 and the cutoff player folds, you can see, I snap call. I just instantly call him. There's $210 in the pot right now. There's like 150 before, something like that. So for $30, I'm never folding to win that much money. He flips over his cards. We have him beat. He was bluffing the whole way. Had king 5 offsuit, so scooping in a $210 pot. 2 wins in the books. Let's see if we can make it 3 in a row. All right, guys, this is another Omaha bomb pot. Like I said, we do them once every hour, so you can see how many significant pots I play in an hour. With that being said, look down at Jack 8, 6, 7 with 2 clubs. Top board is 3, 4, 9 rainbow. Bottom board is 10, 9, 8 rainbow. So flop a jack high straight on the bottom, and up top we have a gut shot for a straight. We also have a lot of cards that'll come on a turn that will give us like open-ended, things like that. So I bet $40, which is a pot size bet. Middle position player goes all in over the top for $68. And yeah, I'm pretty much going to have to be calling that bet depending on how the action goes. If no one raises, I'm definitely calling. If someone raises, I can get away from this because Jack 7's a second nuts on bottom, and I have nothing up top. So it's really a hand that I can just kind of fold. Jack Queen has us dominated, but if I don't see anybody raise, I'm probably going to call and, see what happens on each one of these turns. With all that being said, the other player is asking if the pot is reopened after she goes all in. It's actually not, so I can't re-raise, which, kind of sucks. But hijack makes the call, gets to the cutoff player. He thinks about it for a second before he decides to throw in some chips as well. And then it gets to the button player. And while he waits and tanks and thinks about what he's going to do, would you guys believe this? Boom! That is right. 25% of you are subscribed, which means 75% of you are not subscribed. So if you like the content, you enjoy what's happening here, do me a favor, drop a sub. It actually helps out the channel a ton, and we're trying to get to 1K subs. So if you guys could help, that'd be great. All right, let's get back to the poker hand. So the button player thinks about it for a little bit longer, not too much. He doesn't think too much longer until he decides he is going to, drum roll please. Guys, he makes a call. That's all he does. Okay, there's no raise, nothing crazy. He just puts in some chips and he makes the call. His pot is getting larger and larger. That is all I know. And hey, it would be really nice to win at least half of it, if not all. Under the gun and myself make the call. That brings this pot up to $448. There is good news. I didn't get a raise. So I feel like with this table, other than like one player, I pretty much have figured out, and I think all would have raised if they had the Jack Queen. So once I don't see a raise, I feel like my Jack 7's just good on bottom, and I'm trying to hit up top to scoop this pot. Now, sometimes your reads can be off, and there's also that one player that you never know about. Basically, I don't want to see any board pairs on either board. That's kind of where my head's at right now. So when the turns come and they are the 7 of hearts up top and the deuce of diamonds down below, I don't feel like anything's changed other than I picked up a double gutter up top. A 5 will give us a straight as well as the 10. So we have 2 gutter balls up top to have the nut straight. I pot it 340 effective. That means the player with the largest amount of chips still in this pot has $340. So it's not an actual pot, but it's an all-in for anybody who would like to call. I'm hoping people call because once again, I feel like I'm ahead. And even if I'm somehow not ahead or anything like that, I can still bink up top to hopefully get half the pot. Hijack does make the call, and that is the only customer we get. There's 1128 in this pot. The rivers are 9 of spades up top and Jack of spades down below. 2 incredibly horrible rivers for us. So yeah, any queen basically makes a straight. You have to have use 2 cards to play, but like Jack Queen, well, that would have already been the straight, but like 10 Queen, 8 Queen, 9 Queen, all of those make straights now. King Queen is also a straight. So there are a ton of more hands that beat us. And we have nothing up top other than a pair of 7s with a Jack. So yeah, probably not going to win that one. I don't know. Maybe we chop with this guy on the outside. Unfortunately for your boy, that is not the case. I wish it was. I wish I could tell you that we chopped and we had the best hand on one of these boards, but I do not chop. The hijack player was the one player I didn't know how he would play the hand, and he actually ended up having Jack Queen on the bottom. So he had flopped the nut straight, and it was good the whole way. I was drawing dead to him. He was the only player that I didn't know, and it is what it is. Your boy got outplayed. He also has a 7 for the top. So my 7s were okay, except he just outkicks me. Getting scooped on this $1,128 bomb pot, and it kind of hurts. Not gonna lie, I feel like I could have played this one a lot better. I feel like this one's on me. I misplayed it, and this is one of those hands. I don't know about you guys, but I always analyze my hands and try and figure out what I could do better, things like that. This is definitely where there is some room for improvement. So gonna do a little bit better on those and try not to donk off that much money. With that being said, got to reload for $500 now and get back in the mix and try to run it back up. Yep, so in the game for 1100. Good thing about this game is there are a lot of action. So most of the players they're not afraid to put some chips in, which I like, I enjoy, I like to get in the mix. There's a $5 button straddle on this hand, big blind, under the gun, and myself decide to make the call, but this wascally wabbit, the cutoff has different plans. He raises it up to 25, button makes the call, big blind makes the call, under the gun checks his cards, but guess what, guys? He makes the call as well, and I'm in there, of course. $20 to win $1 million? Yes, sir. Don't mind if I do. Flop comes out, and it is 333. Rainbow, believe it or not, and not a single suited 3 out there. So we flop a boat, which is good. But the problem is, the player to our left could have a bigger boat. So we check it, checks all the way through. Turn comes the bink 5 of spades, hoping he has aces or kings at this point, because if he does, we are getting paid. I check because he was a pre-flop raiser, and I think he'll bet. It works. He bets $25, and then under the gun goes all in for 100. I don't think I should raise here because I think I'll scare off the cutoff player. I think just smooth calling looks strong too, but I could be smooth calling with like 9s, 10s, things like that. Anyway, so I make the call. Cutoff makes the call as well. River comes the Queen of Clubs. Not the best card, because if he had jacks, 10s, something like that himself, that is a scare card. I have only one option to go all in. He instantly folds, so I don't know what he had. Maybe he had ace, king, and felt obligated to call the extra 25. I flip over my hand, show I have 5s full. Our opponent hit the 5, so that was the case 5. Oh, feels bad for him, but feels good to scoop in this $425 pot. All right, guys, getting back to basics, looking at King Jack offsuit here. Middle position, once it gets around to them, decides to raise it up to $10. You know, it's kind of standard raise, I guess. I make the call. Gets to that crazy big blind player, and he's like, hey, you know what? This ain't a $10 game. It's a $45 game. And that's how much you're going to have to pay if you want to see a flop. Little did he know, we all wanted to see a flop because under the gun makes the call. Middle position player makes the call. And of course, your boy's in there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the vlog. So yes, I make the call as well. Going 4 ways to the flop in this $180 pot. 6 deuce 10 is the flop rainbow. Nothing really out there. Under the gun bets 25 into 180, which I'm reading is just insanely super weak. I mean, that's just, it looks like you're taking a stab. Maybe you have a 6, something like that. I don't think you have a 10. Middle position player calls. I'm calling for that. I'm not going to fold. And the big blind player feels the same way. He makes the call as well. $280 in the pot now. 8 of clubs comes on the turn, and action checks around. So, because everyone has been so passive and I have position, I think this is a perfect spot for me to take a stab at it. I also block some straight draws. I block the king high flush draw, things like that. So I have a lot of blockers and, you know, not necessarily blockers to straights, but future straights. So I bet $90 into 280. I feel like that's a good bet. And I do think this will take a couple barrels possibly to take down. If I can take it down now, that's great. If not, I do realize I will have to fire again on the river. And that's just something that if it comes to it, I will put on my big boy pants and make sure to do for you guys. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. I'd rather just take it down now and not have to worry and have the stress. Unfortunately, Under the Gun has different ideas because he makes the call and he's going to put us to the test. Now, this Under the Gun player is a sticky player. He's a good player. He's a good player, but he doesn't like to fold often. So when he makes the call, I'm a little worried. 3 clubs comes on the turn. With all that being said, I don't think I can deviate from the plan. I do have that king of clubs for the flush draw blocker, and I kind of think I have to go with it here. So I bet 175 into a pot of 460. Once again, it's a smaller sizing. That way I can make this bet, and if he makes the call, then, you know, I'm only losing 175. But if he folds like he does here, I win $460 for the minimum risk. So let's go. Taking down this $460 pot with just king high. Feels good, and it feels like we're on track to get out of the trap. Let's move on to the next hand and see how we do. All right, guys, these last 2 hands are both going to be Omaha hands, and the final hand is a big one, so make sure you stay to that. Look down and see 6, 5, 7 queen with 2 diamonds. There's a $5 button straddle, and basically everyone calls. Flop comes out 5 deuce 7, so we flop top 2 pair. On these hands, I like to play them a little bit passively. I don't get too aggressive. I kind of let other people be the aggressors, especially on this table. There's a lot of aggressive players. So I just let them drive the action unless I have like the uber nuts or something like that. Button bets $25. I end up making the call, and the cutoff player calls as well. So we're going to be going 3 ways to the turn. I'm sorry, the hijack player called. So hijack, Button, and myself are the ones in this hand, and I am first act, which once again, I kind of tend to play that passively. Turn comes a queen of diamonds, giving us 3 pair and a flush draw, which is a very strong hand. I think at this point I can maybe check raise. The only thing I'm really worried about is a set of deuces. So, I check per usual, planning if the button bets to check raise, but it does check through, and the river comes to 5 of spades, binking us about 20 boats. At this point, I can't check and let it check through. I have to bet, so I lead out for $50, half pot. I figure any non-believing queen, aces, kings, maybe even jacks, something will look us up. And that's exactly what happens when the button calls to 50. I let him know that we have a boat. He lets us know that we are good, and taking down this $205 pot. All in all, this is probably one of the smallest pots at this game that I've ever seen. But hey, a win's a win. Moving on to the final hand of the night. Alright guys, this is the final hand, and spoiler alert, it is going to be the largest hand I have played on the vlog thus far. Which is crazy because just last vlog, I played the largest pot I've ever played, and now one vlog later, we are already beating it. That's kind of crazy. Look down and see Jack, 10, Ace, Deuce with 2 clubs in my hand. So not a bad Omaha hand, not the best, but cutoff raises to $10. The button ends up calling. Of course, small blind and big blind are in there as well. And I think this is a pretty good spot to raise it up. Do I have an amazing hand? No. I would rather the ace be suited than the jack. Like if I had ace 10 suited and then jack deuce suited, it'd be okay. That being said, it is what it is. I raise it up to $60. The cutoff and button both call, and the other 2 players fold. So, if we can get 2 players out of the pot and go 3 ways instead of 5 ways, that's not too bad either. Plus, like I said, this game plays pretty big for a 1-2 game. Flop comes out, and it is 9-7-4 rainbow. Not the best flop, only really flopped a gutter, so not too happy, but when the button bets $50 into $200, I feel like I can call and peel a card. We could turn a club, or we could just turn an 8 and have the nuts. Under the gun decides 50 isn't enough, raises up to 150. Perfect. Fuck my life. Of course he's going to check raise, because why wouldn't he? At this point, I'm hoping the button goes all in over the top or pots or does something so I can get away from this hand, because I feel like if he just calls and I just have to call 100 more, I am kind of getting some odds to call, because if I bink, I feel like whatever they have, they're not folding, and I will be able to stack them both. With that being said, of course the button calls, because I told you guys this is the largest pot I've played thus far, and therefore I am going to call as well. 650 on the bink. That's right, 8 of clubs, boys. Not only do we hit our gutter, but I have the flush redraw to go with it. So we have the nuts with a club redraw. I pot it for 650. Under the gun goes all in for less. He has $450, and it is on the button player. He is in the tank. Oh, this pot's getting big. Look at all them pretty green chips. It feels nice when you pot it on the turn with the nuts, the absolute stone cold nuts, and you have a redraw. It feels pretty dang good. The only thing I'm really worried about right now are 2 things, right? Number 1, if the clubs come out, is jack high flush good enough? And number 2, is the board going to pair on the river? Those are only 2 things I'm worried about. Other than that, I'm just thinking about all this money I'm about to win and how good it feels, because these are the spots you wait for all night. You see me grinding, making bluffs for winning $400 pots, winning $200 pots, things like that. Those pots help get you to these points. They all add up to get you to the big moment, the Super Bowl as it were. And this is definitely one of those hands. This is one of the hands that make or break your night. You're either going to win them and be on top of the world, or you're going to lose them and you're going to be like, well, why do I even play poker? And I know we've all been there. With that being said, the button calls and I only have like $80 behind. There's 2,400 in this pot, and this is where things get a little crazy. At this point, the button had called, and we're discussing and talking, and we're like, well, how many times do you want to run it? And, you know, the button was asking because I guess he assumed that I was all in because the under the gun player was all in. But unfortunately, I was in fact not all in because the pot wasn't big enough for me to go all in. It was $80 short. And that's what happens in pot limit Omaha sometimes. Sometimes you got a little bit left behind. So once he figures out that we can't go multiple times due to the size of the pot, like I said, guys, a $2,400 pot, massive pot. We actually ask if, you know, we can put the rest of the money in because it's only $80 and 2,400. So this is where it's happening. Right? Whoa, do you want to go 2 times? All that stuff. So we're discussing if we want to just throw in the last $80 and go twice or what the table wants to do. Under the gun player who's all in or whatever he is. Anyways, his position, I tell him, hey, it's up to you. It affects your action. If you want, we can put it all in and go twice, or we can just do it per usual, you know, because it's rude not to ask him because once again, it affects his action. He decides to do it as is, so we rip the river, and of course, it's the 4 of hearts, the board pairs. The board pairs. Yep, he puts me all in for $80. I feel like I can't fold $80 and 2,400. As you see, I just throw the chips in the middle. $2,560 pot, ready to just muck my hand because I know there's no way I have this hand won. There's no way. And in fact, he does have a boat. What's crazy is they each flopped a set. The under the gun player had a set of 9s and the other player had a set of 7s. I keep calling him under the gun. He's a cutoff, but they both flopped a set. So the amount of outs they could hit was so slim that it was insane. They had each other's outs locked up, but that's poker. That's what happens. They found a way to make it happen. And we're losing this $2,560 pot. Let's go to the outro to see how I feel. All right, guys. So ended up losing 1,100. The last hand was just brutal. Biggest hand of the vlogs so far and ended up being a loss. Hopefully we can have another biggest hand next video and it'll be a win. I don't know. Either way, it was fun. I do enjoy the game. I love those guys. I have a great time. I'll definitely go back there. But yeah, I think I only really misplayed one hand. It was the one Omaha hand, the bomb pot where I was being way too aggressive. I think I could have just calmed down, checked, maybe called one street, see how it went, and then folded on turn, depending on how the action went. But you know, it is what it is. We live and learn. I am not perfect. I'm still learning in this game, even though I've been playing it for years. But I appreciate you guys' love and support, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.